Welcome into Higher Living, everyone. Mary, what's up?
Hey, Lance.
How are you?
I'm great. Doing some house sitting. So I have this beautiful home in Denver to myself. I'm also kind of taking care of an elderly puppers. So it's nice getting to have this time working on some art and marketing material, just, you know,
Creating, huh?
creating.
Happy now.
Happy now. It's a good one.
It is. It's the
It
only one
always
we've got, damn it. Right, it better be.
Mm-hmm.
So tell
Exactly.
it, let's get into you had something that, let's talk a little bit about what you shared with me. What you're gonna start sharing on a daily basis, which is beautiful. And you sent me a sample, but take the lead.
Yeah. So I'll start with this quote from Gandhi. Happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony. And, we're building this higher living network and getting messages out to people that may not be mainstream or in line with a lot of the media that we see. And so I know there was a time in my life where what I thought and what I said and what I was doing were not in alignment. And it was really the practice of mindfulness and all of the different ways to create space for our brains to settle and for us to kind of reflect and think about what we're doing and how it's actually making us feel. And if it's bringing joy to our life, or maybe it's leading us down a path that's really not our most joyful. And I know for me, I was just caught in unconscious habits, really, just all along this path of doing things because it was what I had learned I should be doing. And it got to a point where I just really started to question why, because I wasn't feeling my most joy. Like I felt like there was something missing and maybe a path for me that could be happier. I think when you start to get that feeling, it's only a matter of time before you really have to reflect and act on it. And yeah, so mindfulness.
What led you there? That's a broad question that I didn't even tell you I was going to ask you.
I
I'm
was
wondering.
I was getting sick.
Okay.
Like, yeah, I mentally and physically was getting sicker and sicker. And it started with me cutting out some food I know that was, I feel like, taking up space in my body that wasn't aiding to my health. And when I started cleaning up my diet, I had more strength to start a meditation practice or to take the time mentally to say, I don't need to worry about this work right now. Why don't I make some space for myself and do something that I just enjoy, like art or journaling, and doing it for myself and for my better mental health and wellness. And yeah, like it, I was actually talking to my best friend Maria about this last night, and we were reflecting on it. She was like, well, your body just started rejecting the life that you were living. It's
It's
like,
true.
quite seriously it was. And I honestly think that that's the root of why so many of us do get so sick and feel like we're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And we're in this loop that we just can't seem to find our way out of. And for me, it was being very serious about taking time for myself, cutting out all of the excess noise of what I was hearing I should be doing, or even just the thought of what I thought people might be thinking about me. Because at the end of the day, I was the one that had to sleep at night with the choices I was making. And that's it. Nothing else really matters if you're not joyful and happy in your choices. Like, I feel like we owe it to ourselves. Um, and of course, we don't always have to allow ourselves joy and our most happiness. but that doesn't mean we're not worthy of it. Doesn't mean that we don't deserve it in its greatest. So
We are all too busy holding on to our unworthiness. You're 100% right. And I struggle with it daily. I'm not perfect either. But the fact that I'm aware of it and that you're aware of it, that's where that starts. And absolutely, having worked so close in healthcare and medicine over the last 10 years or so, yeah, dis-ease, the root word, dis-ease. I'm really convinced that so much of it, man, it's going to manifest. You're 100% right. Your body was fighting the life you were living, and
yeah.
it will stop you cold in your tracks. And it's up to us to be able to give ourselves space and also to see those signs. I think, yeah,
Yeah. I used to suffer from migraines, and it's funny now when I get a migraine because it is so rare. It's almost like this really aware gift that I realize I'm giving to myself to stop. Stop it. Stop what you're doing and just like be with yourself. And I think that's why, for me at least, it feels like that's why I got sick. Yeah, sure, there was depression in that too because I needed deep rest. But do we not owe it to ourselves with how fast we go and move in our society? Do we not owe it to ourselves when we are sick and feel that need to just stop and rest and relax and eat good food and be there with ourselves, you know? So I view sickness in a very different way now, because now when I get sick or have migraine, it's like, okay, this is in some way the universe or myself gifting myself this time to care for myself.
it will stop you. And it reminds me, I've got a dear friend who is not epileptic by nature, but has been having problems with seizures, and a lot of them come around stress. And they went a long time, or like a couple weeks away from getting their license back because after so many, I guess you can't drive. And then they had another one, and I'm like, like that. The nature of the word itself, seizure. It's stopping you. It's going to stop us. And I think a lot of people are so caught up in, oh, well, it's going around, all this kind of shit. I used to get sick. I'm very blessed. I never, ever, ever get sick. I've not had a flu. I've not had a vomit bug. Like, I don't get sick. I used to get sinus infections a couple times a year. I would always say, I never get sick except a sinus infection like spring and fall. That's what happened. I quit saying that. I swear to God, I haven't had one in probably 5 years. It's powerful. Our thoughts, what we say, what we do is very powerful. But likewise, this going around and this focus on dis-ease and worrying about getting sick. It's all the byproduct of our crazy minds. I guess is what I was trying to ramble about there. But
No, so true. Like, well, it's such a process, right? And we're all still in it, in this process of working with our environment and the stress that it puts on us and finding our ways to combat it and to cope with it, because there's a lot of trauma in that too. And like you said, it when we are just going and going, we don't have the time to sit and be with ourselves.
I think selfishness is needed way more, and the right kind of selfishness, because oh, I don't have time to do this. I don't bullshit, man. We all have the same fucking time. It's priority, but in our life, when we have to constantly change our mask, change our roles. Oh, now I'm a mom. Now I'm a dad. Now I'm a employee. I'm this. I'm that. We give so much of ourselves, and we're guilty, I think, of putting ourselves last. And I'm a big believer in trying to practice it more daily, honestly, because I'm as guilty as anyone else. But to take time aside for you first, whether that whatever that might be. For me, meditating and writing and doing things like this, it, you have to do something to put gas in your own tank, and that's gonna allow it allows us when we're intelligently selfish. I would label it intelligent selfishness. We have to put ourselves first. It'll make us better in every one of our roles, and nobody's going to die. Nothing's falling apart if mom or dad or whatever your hat you're wearing, if you take some time for yourself. You say you don't have time, get the fucking wake up earlier. It's an option.
What's the saying? You can't pour from an empty cup. And, we put so much attention into so many things. We pay so much attention to so many things outside of ourselves. But like, when do we schedule the time to pay attention to ourselves? And that's what I love, that we're kind of able to also open up in these conversations of, like, let's get to the root, or let's start to find our way there when it comes to our feelings. Like, sure, it maybe sound nerdy, but we deserve it to ourselves as humans to really understand what's going on with our feelings. And that is scary. That is so scary. Feelings and vulnerability are so terrifying that we as humans will do pretty much anything, choose any addiction that we can to avoid it. And yeah, I guess for me, because this also sent me down this whole road of having to acknowledge and work through every single addiction in my life that I had created for myself, that I had fed into to avoid something else that I was feeling, from alcohol to sugar to television.
I'm glad.
The list goes on and on.
I'm glad you went there, because typically, this addiction stigma is substances. I've seen so many righteous people shitting and judging people because that's their addiction. Doesn't We all have things that we do to escape, and it's that ultimate live thing. I think that's why you and I are doing this right now, because we have to keep striving. I think us as humans must strive to get to what we are, and along the way, like, you just learn the bullshit. A lot of this bullshit doesn't work, doesn't serve us anymore.
Yeah, and that's also so much a part of it. Is that, you know what, like, if your addiction's working for you right now, great. Like, feel free. It's your own will to ride that out as long as you want to. But I think it's important just to get this message out there, because for some reason I'm not seeing it anywhere, that you don't have to, that you can give yourself the time to see if other outlets and other ways would work better. And just like, yeah, we said in the beginning, like, if you haven't hit that wall yet and your body is not shutting down on you, that's fine. But if you do get to that point, or if you are at that point right now, like, you're not alone. I think a lot of people honestly are hitting that point right now, and maybe that's why we feel so led to discuss it, because we are all addicted. It is quite literally, like, by design of our society, to find things outside of ourselves to make us feel better. And when you really take the time to cut everything out, and you're still there, and you're there in your most true essence, and you cut off all of the masks, it reminds you that, like, you are this whole amazing centuries and centuries and centuries worth of DNA that is so brilliant that you like truly really don't need any of those outside sources. And even when it comes to, you know, spiritual tools, religion, all of them, they're tools to get you to the point where you realize you don't actually need anything else. They're like little tools, little bridges to eventually be able to even release and say, you know, I am whole and we're made of the same thing. Like, we are God. This is all God. And it's just,
And
it's
that
beautiful.
specifically, even Jesus said that in the Bible. You are God's. You can do everything I've done and greater things. It's, you know, people get caught up on that and that side of it. And I guess that's my background coming out. But no, you're 100% right. And we have to, in order to reach that space, for one, we do have to hit that wall. And we have to get to a place where, like, what now? And let me ask you that. Like, when you know, along your journey and in general, what's the key to turning that corner?
Baby steps.
Yeah.
Baby steps. I was even, back to the quote, I was even speaking things before I was acting them. And that's, you know, you were saying earlier, like our words are so, like, yes, our thoughts are so important as well, but our words and what we speak out are so important in how we're steering our lives too. That it's funny, I started speaking the things, positivity, you know, take the space, all whatever like hashtag Instagram worthy blurb you can throw out there. I was speaking it all. But it's funny, it wasn't until maybe a year into really doing that that I started actually acting like it. And that just goes to show, like, it's not something that happens overnight. And I think that's even a sign of our impatience in our society. And, like, don't get me wrong, I'll relate a lot to our society. Not me hating on it. It's just, like, I think it's kind of factual at this point. Like, it's what we can all reflect and see. And we can work with it, because if we avoid it, you can't learn to work with it. It like really will wear you down, because mentally it's just not super healthy. But there are ways to work with it. And yeah, so like so when we are in these spaces where
Mm-hmm.
we know we need to start to take time for ourselves, like, what does that first step look like? Like, even for you, what would you say?
I would say to that, truly trying just to accept what is. And that might mean maybe you see that you need to make a change, but to sit there and beat yourself up because you haven't, or beat yourself up where you are, I think it's about that beautiful present moment that is where everything is created, where everything exists. And it took me a while to get it. I know we talked about it before, and it's ad nauseum. There's no tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be another now. You can't go back to yesterday. It's getting and staying in that moment and being okay with whatever whatever is happening in your life right now. You know, the biggest problem we have is we think we have problems. If we, yeah, it's like Wayne Dyer said, when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. So I think for me, just trying to stay present, be grateful, and and awareness. We can never make any changes without awareness. I have a chapter in my first book about awareness. It's huge. It doesn't mean just because you're aware, you know, like we're rough on ourselves. Damn it, you should be doing, I can't keep doing this. Oh, I should be doing this. I should be. Sometimes it's okay to just be where you are. It's actually perfect all the time, to be honest, but it's easier said than done.
Yeah, like, I think for me, I was, still am, it's still me, easily led by others because I love people. I love other people. I love helping people. I love being part of what they're going through, so much so that I was avoiding myself in that way. But I think for me, even too, it took solitude, like cutting out, and not, it wasn't super long, but taking more and more time to just be with myself. No TV, like no real distractions of thought flooding my brain and my ears. And that's what I think, tools like counting beads or art or journaling, yoga, meditation, all these things, you're giving yourself time. You are scheduling precious time for yourself to be the only influencing party on yourself. And in the beginning, that was brutal. Yeah. And at times it still is, because we're in these habits of judging everything.
We're addicted to our stress hormones. We're addicted to our past. We're addicted to our past. We are
our
really
story.
Absolutely. I'm hanging on to what's already happened. That unless you got a DeLorean, what the fuck are you going to do about it?
Because because if we think about it, even back to the traumas that we all have experienced, which is why I love, again, this whole let's break the stigma of mental illness. Let's just talk about our freaking feelings. And that will be breaking the stigma of mental illness, because we all have feelings and that's where everything resonates. But it's why don't we give ourselves time to sit, to be with our feelings, and to actually forgive ourselves for how we are involved in our traumas, forgive
the past versions of ourselves. I'll say that even.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's true.
Well,
I remember I was coaching someone a few years back, and they were in their early 40s and really were having a hard time with something that happened in their late teens. And I said, you know what? Go get the 18-year-old you and bring him here right now. I want to talk to them. What do you mean? That's not fucking you anymore. And that's the thing. We truly, to find peace with now, to let go of our past, we have to know that we did the best we could do with what we had available at that time. That's life. That's growth. And it's silly. We think everything should go perfectly. How fucking boring would life be if everything went our way? I've always said, and I believe, bad things happen to good people to give them a chance to be great people. Life's going to happen, but no, you're 100% right.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, until we can actually let it go, and part of that is in creating space, it's just like falling. Witnessing your feelings is just like falling, because you don't want to fall, but once you fall and you get back up, you realize you're still here and you're probably stronger. And the same thing goes with going through these really intense feelings. Is as you're in the middle going through there, you probably straight up feel at a little bit at the time, or a whole lot, you're having an anxiety attack. You're not going to make it through it.
Or batshit crazy, or whatever other emotion.
And that's when you come and talk to us, because we'll tell you are not batshit crazy. You're just witnessing this batshit crazy environment and witness it. I think a strong breathing practice, that's really where I realized I was not breathing fully. I wasn't fully getting all of the oxygen into my lungs, creating space, just in that way. But that breathing practice, and I love how the Dalai Lama says this was part of meditation, but honestly, it goes for any way that you're addressing and going through tough, hard feelings is that you let it penetrate. And you know what? Like, my experience with that, it felt like there was a sharp knife stabbing straight into my heart. I mean, this might turn some people off from meditation. I'm sorry, this is just truth. Might not be the truth for anyone else, but it was like there was a sharp knife jabbing through my heart. And he says, focus on the breath and let that breath carry you through. These thoughts will come in. You witness them, try not to judge them. The more you practice it, the easier it gets. Our brains are so brilliant that the more we practice whatever it is, it gets stronger at doing that. So the more you are able to practice going through intense, difficult feelings, breathing through it. So I'd get to the end of it, you're like, when is this sharp pain going to stop? And eventually, in my case, typically there were tears and a little sobbing. It was really not pretty. Wasn't like super gorgeous, like meditative, very simple, clear. In the beginning, it was tears, sobbing, pain in my heart until, you know what? The pain subsided. I somehow found gratitude for whatever it was that I was having such a hard time facing. And through the tears, I have this, like, eyes closed, but I had this just ridiculous grin on my face, just exuding gratitude for the fact that I had faced my fear and I learned something from it. I can do better now. And that was the promise I made to myself, is that in whatever way it would look for you, but I was able to forgive myself immediately in that moment because I took the time to reflect on it, and I knew what that felt like now fully. And I knew in that I could do better next time and maybe not let myself be so hurt for so long.
Beautiful. And thank you so much for sharing this. And I'm so glad that you brought it up. It is an odd day that you had been reading some old stuff, and then we talked. It was just like kind of synchronous. But I guess even in trying to leave something for those that are watching, what are some things that you recommend to help people start and give themselves more space and put themselves first? What's some advice? What's some Mary wisdom?
What you like, if you think about your happiest time in life, or maybe think about when you were a child, are there moments when you think back through of what were you doing when you felt like you were in your happy place, or, when you remember being truly joyful doing whatever it was, and try it again. Maybe that's art. Maybe it's painting silly silly flowers and mountains. I don't know why I do it. It brings me joy. I'm turning it into something to help my business. But it's so simple, but yet it's not, because it's so unique to whoever you are. And give yourself the time just to think about it and try things out. And there are so many ways of things that we can do that allow our brains to settle and our intuition to float to the surface. And I think that's so much of where we get stuck, is our brains are in this habitual form to just keep us producing and moving. But if it's not working for you, you can take a step back and analyze where and how. And I don't know if that answered your question.
No, absolutely. It's beautiful. And I think you're right. It's being okay with what is. And if something's not working, you don't have to, it's just, you can't turn a cruise ship around on a dime. It doesn't have to happen immediately, but it's okay to be aware of something and not have to fix it right now. So no, I love it. Thank you. You're such a blessing, and you've been such a help in holding space, for me and others in your life. And that's what it's all about. We have to be able to learn to do that. So I'm super grateful.
Oh, well, I'm grateful for you, man. I mean, we do it for each other, and I just appreciate it so much because when you feel like you've been through something and you've made it through to the light side of the tunnel, like all you want to do is help those that might be in the dark to remember that there is that light. And just remembering like fresh real food, taking a deep breath. You asked me like how do you start? Honestly, it's probably just as simple as those two things, and then the rest will start to flow to you, because it probably was doing that before I let myself have the time to do the silly creative things of my youth that made me happy.
One step at a now, right?
Yes. And
That's all we
every
can do. It's all we can do, and we're all growing. We're all growing. Whether we like it or not, we're growing. But we do get to choose how and where we grow, and growing through things is the only way through them. It really is.
Yeah, it is. I mean,
Happy
we'll get
now.
there one way or
Yeah. Oh, we're
another.
good. Yeah, absolutely.
All of us. Yeah. I mean,
And we're all going to be dead. So unavoidable things in life, but we are growing. And I think when we learn to view challenges, not as why is this happening to me for me? Why is this happening? What is this bringing me? I think it's a shift in perspective.
yeah. Like, what, even when you're triggered, I've been triggered a lot lately. Oh my God. Vulnerability is huge. And
Mhm.
yeah, when you get triggered, why is that person making you angry? Why is that person making you upset? Keep going until you get to the root. And because a lot of times there's a lot of surface reasons. Don't try not to get stuck on those and keep going to the root. And a lot of times it probably has something to do with some childhood image or, event or something that someone told you and you're still holding on to that. Or you're trying to change people because you don't want to focus on maybe changes that you need to make. This is totally me speaking about myself, but those are two things that can get you started in the way of just reflecting and just seeing what happens.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lance. I'm
It's pretty
so
awesome.
excited.
So yeah, everyone stay tuned. This network is happening clearly and growing. Be looking out for Mary's daily post that will be starting soon. And there'll be more. There'll be more. But thank everyone for tuning in. Thank you, Mary, for your time. And thank you for reminding us to hold space and be okay with what is. Boy, damn, that's tough, isn't it? Just to be okay with what is. But thank you.
Practice.
Exactly.
Remember, our brains we're elastic.
Yeah.
We're just like a bunch of rubber bands. What you
Reticulated activating
practice,
system. That'll be another show, but
yes.
absolutely.
What you practice and what you train your brain to do, it'll keep doing it. I mean, if we can get so habitually formulated and doing things that don't bring us joy, think how actually easy it might be to get in the habit of being positive and going in the ways that does bring us joy. And
It's up
yeah,
here.
getting above the fear, rising
Yeah.
above
I'm not
the
talking about the hat. I'm talking about thoughts. Thoughts, man. It's thoughts. It's got to start there. And that is the beauty, is that it's one thing that we have 100% control over. We
yeah.
don't feel like we do, but once you realize you're not thinking positive, look, thoughts, we get to choose our thoughts like we choose our clothes every day, but we don't think that we can. And let me tell you what we think and what we choose to think and what we allow in our space, that's what we're going to get. Where attention goes, energy flows. Happy now.
Happy now, Lance. Thanks again.
Thanks, Mary. Everyone have an
Bye.
awesome day. Bye.